Hello folks, so you have just bought yourself an X7 Phenom and you want to trip it out. Well, here are some modifications that I've done to mine, and if you want to copy me or not copy me, hopefully this will be an informative video for you. Let's start front to back. This is your stock barrel. Modifications, upgrades, a freak barrel. These are the ones with the fancy inserts and whatnot. If you're going to do this, there's a ring on this front part. If you have the standard UMP style X7 Phenom, that you got to basically remove so the freak barrel will fit in, because it is, see, a little bit wider than the stock barrel. Oops. Well, we don't need that. Anyway, just so you guys know, if you're new to paintball, if you're going somewhere with field paint and it's kind of a little bit malformed, the freak barrel doesn't necessarily give you an advantage. You got to be shooting quality paint to get those nice straight shots. Otherwise, just may as well just leave on the stock barrel if you're going somewhere that requires field paint, and the field paint, well, isn't so good. Alright, moving on. Sometimes you can find these bad boys on the internet. These are 300 round hoppers. I installed an Exalt universal speed feed on this one. This is a nice modification. It's not really that much taller than a regular hopper. Still allows you to sight over the gun, and gives you 100 extra rounds than the stock version. That one's nice too. Next up, obviously the squishy paddles. Several things on the squishy paddles. You are not going to be able to shoot high-grade competition, the real brittle paint, even with the squishy paddles. And later on, there's also a bolt in here which has a squishy face on it from TechT. Even then, you're not going to be able to shoot the competition paint from an X7 Phenom. Sorry, but obviously it wasn't really designed for that to begin with. But now let's get into the more crazy modifications. I said before, I installed a TechT squishy paddle bolt to it. The issue you'll have with that is, though, that since the cyclone feed runs off the parasitic loss from pushing the bolt forward, the end result is, though, there's not as much energy to actually spin the cyclone feed. What happens there is, though, that you end up having to get what's called the fat hose from them. This is like 25 bucks or something like that. Anyway, so you have to do that because the bolt's so much lighter that there's not as much energy to spin the cyclone feed. Anyway, no big deal. But more or less so that when you start modifying a Tippmann, they work really well right out of the box. They don't really respond too well to modifications. So once you start modifying, you have to kind of know that you're in it for the long haul, especially if you start messing with the bolt and the cyclone system. Another modification, obviously, I upgraded the cyclone feed, put the metal bar in there. That helped a little. All right, other ones. This is your folding stock. Goes on the back here. If you're running a remote line, this kind of helps the feel of the gun. If you're not running a remote line, it's just a tank and this, and that's just a lot of stuff back there. It ends up looking kind of and feeling like an Empire Defender, which is kind of what I've made here. If you don't know what an Empire Defender is, it's basically got the hopper integrated in here, and it feeds up and forward, and then you got a tank down below. So it's kind of ass heavy, but the advantage is though that the selector on it, you have like a safe, a fire, a second mode, and then a full auto mode, or whatever, how you want to set it. That's kind of the advantage over kind of your Tippmann X7 here. Unfortunately, it's also like $400 more than the X7. But after I've modified all this, I've made one for slightly less of a price. So note, if you're just going to start off with just a blank sheet of paper or, no gun, it's probably better off just to get like an Empire Defender than to really trip out and modify a Tippmann X7. However, if you already got an X7 or someone's giving you a free X7, have fun. The next modification is the TechT trigger. This is their fancy electronic trigger. You can kind of hear it. It goes to full auto right away. It doesn't have that stupid safe full auto, which I absolutely hate and despise. This modification right here, if you're not mechanical at all, I wouldn't attempt it. But if you're decently mechanical, it's a little difficult to do. There's a lot of little adjustments that you got to be fairly precise on. Otherwise, this thing will just rattle off full auto, and it'll be pretty dangerous. But if you want to do it, you can do that. And anyway, those are modifications. So quick review. The full auto electronic trigger, obviously what happens is that you lose the mechanical function on it, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but you get the fancy full auto. And what I actually did was I actually rebuilt another trigger. I ordered all the parts from Tippmann. However, there's a little camshell that goes around the PCB board, which you cannot order online. You have to order another PCB board. So now what I have is I have this, and I have another entirely manual trigger, which, okay, that was my bad, my mistake, but anyway. Anyway, I also have the fast pins from TechT. Those are kind of nice. So in the end, if you have yourself an X7 and you want to start modifying it, this, if you like full auto, it's kind of fun. You can set it up to, I've been able to run about 25 balls a second, which pretty fast. The trouble is though that you just go through paint so fast that you end up just setting it back down to 12 balls a second or 10 balls a second depending on how you're shooting it. The squishy paddles, they seem to help a little bit for paint breakage, not that much. The new bolt, the TechT bolt, that was a huge pain in the ass. That'd be the one that I would recommend the least, because you still can't shoot competition paint out of it. You're still doing field paint, and you have to chase, like you're trying to balance everything out. You got to sometimes cut some springs in here and whatnot. It was a huge pain in the ass. So that's the one I wouldn't recommend. The easiest one, obviously, your barrel upgrade, and also for if you get like a freak system, obviously you can use it for other guns. The girlfriend has a Tippmann crossover, and it uses the same threading. So when I steal her gun, I just take my stuff along with it. Anyway, have yourself a good day, and